Well, good day to you. It is April the 1st, 2021, and I hope you're having a fantastic day wherever you are. I know I am. And if you are, of course, listening to this on April the 1st, well, then just be careful. You know, we got pranksters everywhere. Just be careful where you sit, where you're stepping, and of course, within each corner that you're turning, you got to be real careful. Somebody might jump out and, scare you some kind of way. And if you're the prankster yourself, keep this in mind too. I read this on a t-shirt. You might find this informative, but it said, it's funny only up until the point that someone gets hurt. And then it's absolutely hilarious. So yeah, just keep that in mind. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, if you're listening to this channel for the first time, my name is Gary Willing. And what we talk about here is we talk about the emergence of Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom. We talk about why are they returning now to the everyday world, and why is it so important that they're coming now at this particular time? And because there's a reason why they're coming now. And also, what does it mean for you? Now, I couldn't really talk about this at great length for as long as I've been talking about it without some kind of evidence or proof of what I'm talking about. Well, the evidence and proof about the return of the teacher and the return of these masters has really been in plain sight for decades. And it's the miracles that have been going on all around the world in all walks of life for my whole life for sure. But, they've been happening so frequently that the media really hasn't been talking about it much lately, but they're still going on. But anything from UFOs, crosses of light, crop circles, weeping icons, the disappearing hitchhiker, the Hindu milk miracle, to say the least. There's just a tiny little list of what I'm talking about. Visions of the Madonna. They're happening to every single religious group. And they're also happening to people of no religious faith. And like I said, they've been going on for decades, and they're not stopping. As one of the masters said, the age of miracles has no end. So these miracles will be going on for a long time to come. But they're evidence of hope. And we talk about this in nearly every video, that they're evidence of hope. Because when we talk about the media and we watch the media, of course, they're not really giving us a lot of hopeful messages, right? It's all about something bad that happened, and the next day something worse even happened, and so forth, right? So you can get pretty down if that's all you're listening to is just the mainstream media, and even the alternative media for that matter. But I do think they're evidence of hope. And let me give you an example, okay? I gave it in the last video, and I think it's a pretty good example. The healing waters, okay, of Tlacote, Mexico, northern Germany, and India. But Tlacote, Mexico is the most popular because there was a CBS article on 60 Minutes where, years and years and years ago, where they talked to the rancher who was the one that discovered the healing well. And he talked about the hundreds of thousands of people that were coming there every year and drinking this well and were experiencing miracle cures, anything from AIDS to, which I know there's treatments for AIDS now, but back then there wasn't. People were cured from AIDS, cancer of all kinds, diabetes, aches and pains, minor illnesses even. Some people just had an overall increase in their vitality and so forth. Now, and I like to use this as an example, but if someone was facing a terminal illness such as cancer, and they went and drank the waters of Tlacote, Mexico, and were cured, don't you think they would have a more hopeful outlook on life? And to quote Shank from the Young Turks, of course they would. They would be so uplifted for the future. And it's not just people who are experiencing the healing wells, but even people who stand in front of these miracle crosses of light in windows, or see a UFO flying in the sky, or saved from an accident from what they might consider to be an angel. Of course they're feeling uplifted. I know I have. I've experienced these miracles firsthand myself, and every single time I was always left with this wonderful sense of hope for the future. And so, something to think about. And again, if you are an investigator type yourself, I have links in the description of each one of these videos. You can start to do your own research and see for yourself that what I'm saying about these miracles is true. They're happening all over the world to every religious group, and they've been going on for decades. If you are interested in the healing waters of what I just talked about, you don't have to go to Mexico. You can click on the link to Ainsworths Pharmacy, which is in the description of this video, and you can buy tablets just like I do, or creams that you can put on your joints in your body and give yourself, a little bit of physical boost if you're not really, too sick or something like this. But it does help, and I have experienced the benefits myself of the healing waters as well. And a little side note, I talk about the humor of these masters, and what do they say about the water in Mexico, right? Don't drink the water, right? Well, that was the first well that was discovered. But in the coming time, after Maitreya is out known for who he is, there's going to be close to 800 of these wells all over the world. So we got that to look forward to. Now, the reason why it's important that they're coming is several reasons. But the main thing is because of what Maitreya says is the single biggest thing that humanity must do at this time. We must create peace. Our very survival depends on this. So all this wonderful things that we talk about that are awaiting humanity, if we just start to see ourselves as one family and so forth, really is for naught until we start the principle of sharing, which will bring about justice, which will bring about peace. Because, as the teacher says it, without sharing, there will be no justice. Without justice, there will be no peace. And without peace, there will be no future. So if you're hoping for a future, for not only yourself, but for your children and your children's children, you might want to listen to the teacher and look and see what we can do to start the principle of sharing. But, in each one of these videos, I have an image of SOP, Save Our Planet. And I want to leave us with this intro with this, is it's the hope of the masters of wisdom that the phrase SOP, Save Our Planet, becomes a rallying call for us to do just that, to save our planet. Time is of the essence. We must do this together. We have to do this together. That's why trust and peace amongst the nations is so important. The nations have to do it together. Individuals have to do it together. And if we did it and implemented our will, we could solve this problem of the environment rather rapidly. So anyway, hope this helps you. Anyway, now I do have some questions to cover, and I always like to invite you to ask a question. I do need to make a couple clarifications on this. Try to keep it on topic of what we talk about here as best you can, and I'll try to answer it. If I don't know the answer, I'm man enough to say that I don't know the answer. Also, try to refrain from asking me questions about other YouTubers or about somebody else's saying about some spiritual topics about this, that, and the other, because I don't see it as my place to really give my opinion on it. Okay, it's better for you to make up your own mind. If you want to listen to them, listen to them. If you want to listen to me, listen to me. If you want to listen to both of us, that's great too. It doesn't really matter to me. Really, the first 5 minutes of each of my videos is the most important thing that I talk about. Because I talk about his priorities, I talk about the miracles and the fact that the teacher has come back. Other than that, it's pretty much all gravy. So, but anyway, let's get on into it. And then also, too, I want to say this before I get into the questions. I'm sorry. Hopefully you'll listen to this video all the way through, because I am going to read an article from Benjamin Creme's master entitled The Door of Initiation. And this one I'm putting up because it's a great article and it's full of truth and it's a wonderful read and so forth. But there was a woman a couple videos ago named Jacqueline Challenger who asked me a question about the 5 great expansions of consciousness, or called initiations. And I did my best to answer it. But in truth, I was trying to find an article from Benjamin Creme's master about initiation to kind of add to it in a way that I couldn't talk about initiations, because he's already taken all 5 and, I'm still struggling just like everybody else, but hopefully you'll hear this, because it's not only pertaining to what Jacqueline was asking about the individual process of initiation, but about the great expansion of consciousness for all humanity, which is about to come. Right now we're living in a world that's divided, that's dying. People are at war with one another. People are suffering from starvation, and unemployment and so forth. And the pollution is just raging on and so forth like this. But it's the darkest before the dawn, as they say. And the dawn is the revelation and the expansion of the consciousness of all of us into realizing and seeing ourselves as one humanity. But as one humanity, we also have to tackle the problems that we've created for ourselves as one humanity. But you can't just say that you're one. We have to do something about it. It has to be grounded in reality. And that's why Maitreya's priority for the principle of sharing being the first step to justice to bring about peace, that is the rubber that meets the road. The grounding of the truth of the unity of all of us is the principle of sharing. And so anyway, but hopefully you'll listen to the video all the way through and then hear the article and so forth. But anyway, the first question comes from somebody who's been commenting quite a bit over the past few videos, and his comments are quite long, as they say, don't try to kill a mosquito with a cannon. Don't try to crack a nut with a sledgehammer. Sometimes you just can say too much. But anyway, the question that I picked out of it that we can talk about is, where is it? I also have a question about why you think this guy, I guess you're assuming Maitreya, would be on television. The media is the enemy of the people, and it is used to divide people. It's all fake news. All fake news. Where have I heard that one before? You didn't come up with that one. Somebody else came up with that phrase. Unfortunately, that phrase has really stuck. He's thrown a lot of crap at the wall, and that was the one thing that just stuck in people's mind. Fake news. People use it all the time. Anyway, and then your question was, why would your guy be talking to them and not directly to us? Well, to answer your question, how else would he talk to somebody? Go door to door? Give me a break, man. It's like the media is not the enemy of the people. That was the former president lying to the people like he did the entire time. And he used the terms like fake news, that, the media is a disgrace, they're this, that, and the other, to discredit them because he knew what he was doing was wrong. And they were calling him out on his lies all the time. So he did that so he would keep people chasing their tail. Now, the reason why the media is divided is because the people are divided. There are representatives. And so Maitreya, when he's speaking to the media because that's how we communicate with one another, is through the media. Like it or not. It's flawed. I get it. And I'm not arguing with you how flawed the media is, right? But it's the only way he can talk to us. He can't call each one of us on the phone and do robocalls now, can he? Right? So it's just, that's how he's going to speak to us, is through the media. And as the people change, the media's role will change. And they won't be quite as divisive, but it's divisive because we're divided. But they're not the enemy of the people. Not at all, And the funny thing is, and I'll make a little thing about the whole fake news thing, is, you can side with Trump or be against Trump, right? But in truth, Trump is a con man. He's been a con man his whole life. He was a con man when he was a real estate developer in New York. He was a con man when he started to build casinos. He was a con man. And if you ever watch a show about a con man, like on Dateline NBC, they always seem to as a MO, seem to drop a little kernel of truth that they're lying. It's not good enough for them to lie. And it's not good enough for Donald Trump just to lie. Every once in a while, he's got to let you know that he's lying. And he said, when he started out using that term fake news, there was a journalist who he was talking with, and he goes, well, I'm just doing it because you guys are going to discredit me. See, he told the truth. And then he will turn around and say, oh, they're fake news. It's opinionated news. I'll give him that much. It is definitely opinionated news, and it is highly politically charged news from time to time. But, to say that it's the enemy of the people, wow, that's a bit of a stretch as far as I'm concerned. So anyway, but thank you for asking the question. Now we'll get on to another question, which I think is more pertinent to what we talk about here. Where is it? This question comes from Placeholder. When you say you have seen Maitreya as an elderly man, Asian young man, black woman, and so on, how do you know it was Maitreya? Well, for a couple reasons. One, the energy of Maitreya has been the same through each one of his familiars. The eyes are the same. They always say the eyes are the window to the soul, right? Well, it would stand to reason that, if it was the same person in a different guise or different familiar, that the eyes would give it away. That's one thing. But also some things that he said. There was a couple experiences that I had. One comes to mind. Maitreya was actually, he sat down and talked with me for nearly an hour, and we talked about a lot of different stuff. Never once did he claim to be the Christ. Never once did he claim to be Maitreya, but eventually I started to pick up on that it could have been him and thought that was him, and then eventually knew it was him. But what happened was, as we were talking, he was talking about his concern about hunger and the hunger issue and so forth, but then he kind of started talking about some other things, and I wanted to test him. This was the only experience that I had that I actually wanted to test Maitreya. And the only thing that could come to mind was a joke that Benjamin Creme said at a conference a couple years prior to this. And Benjamin Creme, the joke was this, and there's a reason why he said this joke, but he was talking about living in the now. And when you live in the now, you forget about your regrets, you forget about your worries of the future, and you just kind of are in the now. But he said it reminded him of a joke that he had heard where a guy goes to a doctor complaining of memory problems. And the doctor says, well, how long have you been having these problems? And the guy said, what problems? It was a funny joke the way that Ben said it, and I remember laughing quite a bit at it. But anyway, so when Maitreya was talking to me, I wanted to test him. At this time, I said this was the only time I ever wanted to test him. The only thing that came to mind was this bloody joke that Ben said, and so I was about to say it to him. For whatever reason, I thought if I said it and he laughed or said, oh, something about Ben, that was him. That was what my thinking was, right? Well, I say right, but you don't know that because you had never heard the story before. But anyway, I was about to tell him this joke, and Maitreya went, no, I got something better to tell you. I got a much funnier joke to tell you. And I said, okay, what is it? And he recited the exact same joke that I was about to tell him that Ben said. A guy goes to a doctor complaining of memory problems. The doctor says, well, how long have you been having these problems? The guy said, what problems? The exact same joke. And then in the same experience, when we were leaving and he said he had to go, I was talking to him on the way out the door. He said his job was to find treasure among the trash. And I knew he meant, try to find those people who are willing to serve, in a world of that we live in, right? Where everyone's kind of selfish. That's kind of the way I took what he meant to say, and he started talking about finding long lost treasure or art. And that was something I always dreamed about. Instead of winning the lottery, my dream was always about finding some long lost Rembrandt painting or something like this. Anyway, so as we're walking out, he said he likes to find treasure among the trash. And I thought about, wow, I'd really love a Picasso painting. It's just the thought that popped in my head. I never said it, but it was the thought that popped in my head. And he goes, well, Gary, then he goes, well, Gary, I want to give you a gift. That's what he said. I want to give you a gift, right? So what's your address? I'll send you a gift. That's what he said. I'm sorry, I skipped a step. And then I thought to myself, I would love a Rembrandt painting or a Picasso painting. And he goes, well, I don't know if I can give you a Rembrandt or a Picasso painting, but I'll find something to give you. So that's how I knew he was Maitreya. Now, there were other times that it was just so odd and peculiar, the way that he was dressed or the way he said, or, the fact that he knew things about me that nobody else knew, that I knew there was something. And knowing this information helped. Had I not known this information, I probably wouldn't have thought of anything of it other than just something incredible happened to me at that time, right? So that's how I would say that. Now, the other experiences that I had, the one that's the most dramatic happened before I knew anything about this. You got to understand that some of these miracles happened to me, and these experiences I had with Maitreya happened before I even knew who Maitreya was. So my mind wasn't trying to project it onto reality, kind of thing, like some people would, like wanting an experience from Maitreya, so then it just, they make it up, So before I knew anything about this, I was traveling overseas, playing music with a band called The 3 Degrees, and they were a 70s R&B group out of Philadelphia, and I met up with them in the tour, and we went to Japan, and I was touring Japan, and I think it was in Osaka. There was a woman backstage asking for the autograph of the 3 singers, and then she looks at me and she asked me for my autograph, and I kind of waved her off, and then she kind of nodded and, please give me your autograph. And I thought, okay, fine. So I signed. I was trying to think about what I was going to write, and I drew a peace sign, a heart, and a happy face, and I signed my name. Well, anyway, when I got back to Atlanta, I was in a part of town that I hardly ever went to at that time. Now I go there all the time, and I'm quite familiar with Marietta, but at the time I got lost. And this was before cell phones and before Google, and I was supposed to meet the guitar player of the tour and give him my passport. So I was running late. I pulled into a gas station to make a payphone call. And I was about to drop the quarter in the phone to call Harry, who was about 6 or 7 miles away, 8 miles away, something like that. And I was about to make the call, and I look over, and there was graffiti all over this payphone. But the one graffiti that really stood out was what Maitreya wrote to me. He said, "To Gary." And there was a heart sign, a peace sign, and a happy face. It said still alive and well, and there was a cross, and it was signed the Christ. So it's just something that was just off the wall, crazy, extraordinary, that to me the best explanation was is an omniscient being of a Christ-like stature was the one that put it there. Other people have given me other explanations of why they think it was there. Anything from somebody stowing away on the plane and waiting for the right moment to write it on there just to fool me. I mean, hey, that's an explanation. It's not very likely, but that's an explanation that somebody gave. So, but yeah, I mean, how would I know? It's just, I had a strange experience with somebody, and I felt more uplifted and more hopeful, like I talk about, quite uplifted, quite joyful about the experience, far more than I would from just an ordinary person. I was fortunate enough to have Benjamin Creme's ear, like so many people did when he was alive, and I asked him, and he said, yes, it was. Now, there were other times that I thought for sure it was Maitreya, and it wasn't. He said, no, that was just an ordinary person. So it happened both ways, but the majority of the time I got it right, And the thing that Benjamin Creme said about me personally, because I had an experience where Maitreya said to an ex-girlfriend of mine, make sure that boy knows how lucky he really is. And, I thought for sure it meant that I was going to win the lottery. That's what I thought. I mean, I got to admit, I did think that at the time. But anyway, but when I talked to Benjamin Creme about it, he said to me, I never even said that I thought I was going to win the lottery. He goes, well, I don't think it's going to mean you were going to win the lottery, Gary. It just means that, because he kind of read my mind too, I think. But he said, I was lucky because I remember them. So many people have Maitreya experiences and don't even remember them, is what he was saying. And that's what kind of separates, I guess, me knowing about this information from people who have experienced Maitreya's help or his a master in that way, or had Maitreya meet them or something like this, but just totally forgot about it. And so I wouldn't be surprised, and this is not only for you, placeholder, but for everybody, that when you see and recognize Maitreya on TV, you will feel like you have seen him before, and you probably will be right. You either have seen him on TV and didn't recognize him, or you saw him in your own life and didn't recognize him either. And then you might actually start to remember some experiences that you had, like, because that's what happened to me. I saw Maitreya in the third grade. It was in the third grade. And he came into my cafeteria room and in front of all my classmates and really embarrassed me. I mean, he gave me this huge hug and told me how much he missed me. And my brother, I love you so much, my brother. Well, when you're 3 years old, you want to hear that. See, you definitely don't want to get hugged in front of your classmates, man. You can get beat up for something like that in my school, right? So anyway, I pushed him away, right? And I said, get away from me, you octopus. And as he was walking away, he turned around and smiled at me. And it was the eyes. Yeah, I remember the eyes and the smile more than anything of that experience. But I didn't know that was Maitreya. And had I never picked up a book by Benjamin Creme, I would have never thought about it as being anything extraordinary, right? So, it wasn't until I knew this information, started reading about it, started to, inquire more about this information, that some of these experiences started to come back to me and go, oh, and then it made sense. So it's just something to think about. So hopefully we'll, you can look at it for yourself and see for yourself. But anyway, let's get on to the master's article, like as promised. This article is entitled "At the Door of Initiation." And as always, it's better to read it yourself. Go to the Share International website, read some of Benjamin Creme's master's articles. If you don't want to read them on a phone or on a tablet and you want to read it in book form, there's a link in the description of each one of these videos to Amazon where you can pick up some of Benjamin Creme's books if you so choose. It's not necessary. It's just throwing it out there to you. So anyway, let's get on into it. But hopefully, like I said, hopefully you'll listen to the end because it's quite beautiful and full of truth. When people near the gate of initiation, at whatever level, a profound change takes place in their life patterns and associations. All that was familiar and comforting loses its flavor and becomes stale. All that tended to support and comfort falls away. A new openness and vulnerability takes the place of assured habits of thought, and an unfamiliar humility descends upon the seeker. The old certainties disappear. The world changes shape and nothing is as it was. When this happens, the individual experiences a profound sense of unease, of impending loss, often of despair. All seems black and bereft of hope. The old loses its appeal, the future beckons menacingly. Thus it is for the individual disciple, thus too is it for humanity as a whole. As it stands now at the very door of initiation into a new state of consciousness, humanity steels itself for the experience of the new. The infinite tasks ahead, the creation of a new world. Bereft of guidance, it would founder quickly and suffer painfully. Without higher help, its progress would be slow and fitful, its future uncertain and bleak. Help, however, is at hand. Never in man's long history has that help been unforthcoming. Now, in time of greatest need, many are the hands held out in succor, many the forms this aid has taken. Chief among these is the reappearance of the Christ. In answer to mankind's call and need, Maitreya has shouldered once again the burden of appearance. Today he awaits an invitation to come before the world as the world teacher, the hope and savior of men. He comes himself, and this time not alone. With him today are many of his brothers, who, like him, have mastered the lessons of this earth. They come to aid and to teach, to point the way, to release to men the blueprint of the future in all its beauty. Other hands, as yet unseen, lend too their gracious succor to the world. From distant worlds this help descends, and protects, saving man from much anguish and woe. No need is there for men to fear. The aid is adequate, the succor is in time. Man must now accept responsibility for his own salvation and set in motion the changes for which he longs. Maitreya and his group of masters will lead the way, outline the path, but man must take the first steps to rehabilitate his world. When these first steps have been taken, then will the masters add their strength and knowledge to the task of transformation. Then will the world respond to a new note, a clearer call. Then will men awaken to a fairer day and restore the ancient allegiance of man and God. Thus will the plan of God begin to be fulfilled in all its beauty and color. Thus will men know the truth of their divinity and the certainty of progress into that divinity. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.